US has agreed to a $11.1 billion arms sale to Taiwan, the largest in history, covering mobility artillery rocket systems, howitzers, loitering drones, and anti-tank missiles. Taipei welcomed the move as critical to strengthening its deterrent and asymmetric warfare capabilities, while Beijing denounced it as destabilizing and undermining peace across the Taiwan Strait. For US-China relations, the move will harden strategic competition and complicate upcoming high-level engagements while also potentially constraining cooperation on other issues, like trade. But on closer inspection, most of the platforms being sold is equipment that would be what's used to target ground troops and tanks. This would make such platforms useful after the Chinese have landed on the island of Formosa, the nation of Taiwan, which would mean Taiwan has lost air and sea superiority. This deal, therefore, doesn't alter the strategic balance between China and Taiwan, and it seems to come following months of ambiguity in US-Taiwan policy under President Donald Trump, who alternated between signaling support for Taipei and emphasizing Taipei's own burden-sharing responsibilities. China is leading research in nearly 90% of the crucial technologies that significantly enhance or pose risks to a country's national interests, according to a technology tracker run by the Australian Strategic Policy Institute, an independent think tank. The think tank's Critical Technology Tracker evaluated high-quality research on 74 current and emerging technologies this year, up from the 64 technologies it analyzed last year. China is ranked number 1 for research on 66 of the technologies, including nuclear energy, synthetic biology, and small satellites, and the United States topped the remaining 8, including quantum computing and geoengineering. The results reflect a drastic reversal. At the beginning of this century, the United States led more than 90% of the assessed technologies, whereas China led less than 5% of them. But now, China has leapfrogged the US. The think tank recognizes the limitations of ranking nations by identifying the top 10% of the most cited papers produced by researchers in a country. This method is a useful way to measure tech progress, especially on tech that doesn't exist yet. But research success still needs to be translated into engineering proficiency, manufacturing capacity, and commercial success. Whatever the outcome, the US has already launched a tech war with China, as it's worried about the nation's emerging global power. EU leaders agreed to provide Ukraine with a €90 billion loan, backed by the EU budget, after failing to secure consensus on using frozen Russian central bank assets. Following lengthy talks in Brussels, EU leaders approved borrowing on capital markets to lend to Ukraine. Hungary and Belgium had opposed the loan being funded by frozen Russian assets. Brussels argued the legal implications was not a burden it was prepared to carry, and that it may make the small nation a target of Russia. Other member states, including Italy and France, also expressed reservations, calling instead for a joint borrowing-based alternative. Although EU-backed borrowing initially appeared unviable because it formally requires unanimity, Hungary, Slovakia, and the Czech Republic ultimately lifted their vetoes after securing exemptions from any financial obligations linked to the €90 billion loan. In 2026, Ukraine is running out of troops, equipment, support, and only has the finances to get through 2026.